as a parent, and I'm sure everybody in this assembly, wherever they may sit, cannot even imagine, cannot fathom the decision that Leah Parsons and Glenn Canning had to make with respect to the life of their daughter, Rehtaeh. On the 7th of April, they made the decision to take her off of life support. Because on the 4th of April, Mr. Speaker, this 17-year-old had attempted suicide by hanging. Mr. Speaker, the specter of all of this is really, really hard to fathom, not just in terms of what the family has gone through, but that this young life has ended so tragically and so prematurely, and that Canada, and Nova Scotia, and that Canada is deprived of whatever her great contributions might have been. Mr. Speaker, we know well why she made this very dark decision to attempt suicide on 4 April. She made it because of cyberbullying. Mr. Speaker, the events are well known, but I think it's important that we canvass them. If we're trying to bring awareness to cyberbullying in this province and in this country, we need to go over what are very, very tragic and dark circumstances around what happened to Rehtaeh. Mr. Speaker, when she was 15, her mother, Leah, states that 4 boys sexually assaulted her. Mr. Speaker, after a year of investigations, the RCMP, with the tools currently available, determined that there was not enough evidence against to support the allegations to lay charges. Mr. Speaker, we know that a photo was taken of the attack and was circulated around her Cole Harbour, Nova Scotia school. We know that she was said to have been mocked by her classmates. She endured relentless humiliation and harassment. There was a lot of name-calling about her on Facebook. There were text messages that involved that sort of name-calling as well. Mr. Speaker, since the 7th of April, I think the country has been galvanized by this particular issue, asking the question, as we all do as parents, is there something that we could do better to prevent this from ever happening again? Mr. Speaker, and that's why we are going to have this debate and hopefully support the initiatives of the Justice Ministers of the provinces, territories, and of Canada. On the 9th of April, her mum on CBC News said, quote, "She was never left alone. Her friends turned against her. People harassed her. Boys she didn't know started texting her and Facebooking, asking her to have sex with them since she had with their friends. It just never stopped." Mr. Speaker, we know that on 22 April, Rehtaeh's parents, Leah and Glenn, met with the Prime Minister for 45 minutes. Mr. Speaker, we know that Premier Dexter in Nova Scotia has been leading in this as well and helped facilitate the meeting and what has happened since. Mr. Speaker, the Federal Justice Minister, together with the provincial and the territorial justice ministers yesterday, resolved that we should pursue every potential improvement to the criminal code that would stop the posting of these kinds of pictures and then therefore hopefully stop the attendant harassment and bullying. And bullying just doesn't seem like strong enough a word, but that's the one that is certainly used. But if we could, through criminal code changes, just make it that much more difficult, make it illegal, frankly, for the posting of these pictures without consent. Mr. Speaker, would that this was only an individual case, one very tragic case. It would be one too many. The sad news, though, Mr. Speaker, is we know, and I know from reports that I can get from my own kids, who are all teenagers, that this is not isolated, that this kind of thing is happening today. On the 12th of October 2012, 15-year-old Amanda Todd committed suicide at her home in Port Coquitlam, British Columbia. Prior to her death, Todd had posted a video on YouTube in which she used a series of flashcards to tell of her experience of being blackmailed, bullied, and physically assaulted. Mr. Speaker, when Amanda was just in grade 7, she made a mistake. She used a video chat to meet some new people over the internet, and she was convinced by a stranger to bare her breasts on camera. And then she was later blackmailed with threats that this photo would be exposed to her friends. And if you can imagine this, Mr. Speaker, during a week in 2012, in early 2012, the police informed Amanda that the photo was circulating on the internet. And so, as was the case with Rehtaeh, this photo became a touchstone, a lightning rod for the kind of harassment and bullying, the likes of which we can only imagine. We can only possibly imagine as parents, and never mind Amanda and Rehtaeh who went through it. And so again, Mr. Speaker, I think it's important for all of us as provincial legislators, as those who can affect things not just here in the province but in the country, to canvass all possible options to stop this from happening. At the very, very least, to hold those who are accountable for posting these pictures without consent in a way that they currently cannot be held accountable. Mr. Speaker, my kids make fun of me because I creep on their Facebook, as they say, although it's just a friendly discussion we have, and it's also an understanding that we have. I, as a parent, and like so many parents, we do want to know what's happening in those aspects of our kids' lives, given what is out there today. And so, Mr. Speaker, I would want us to consider supporting the motion and then transmitting the support to the Federal Justice Minister. I look forward to hearing from the Leader of the Opposition as well, and I think the Attorney General has a few remarks, and then we have a Leg Secretary who's going to be focused on anti-bullying, and perhaps she will have a chance to enter the debate as well. But I want to finish with this. Laws are important, and public awareness is important, and we should be doing all of these things, Mr. Speaker, but there is individual responsibility here that we need to focus on as well. Each parent has a responsibility to know what's going on in social media with their kids. And as our kids get a little bit older, we can have an expectation of them as well for responsibility, especially if we would take the time to have this discussion. Maybe if there were more kitchen tables around the province that talked about Amanda and Rehtaeh in very graphic terms and told that story, maybe even showed a bit of YouTube video of funerals, of those funerals, and had a discussion, we would know that their lives were not lost in vain, and we would also hopefully understand that our kids can be a great source of hope in all of this. They can help turn it around, just as we as parents, adults, mentors, coaches, teachers can help be a positive influence talking about these things. So, Mr. Speaker, I'm grateful for the leave to discuss it. I'm grateful for the cooperation of the opposition when we asked if we could have this discussion just before we get into some other business on Private Members' Day. Mr. Speaker, I hope we will send a strong and clear message to the federal government that they need to look at all criminal code improvements that could put an end to this sort of thing, to the posting of these pictures, and also that we would resolve as individual legislators to provide a message to ourselves and to all that might be watching and others that we will talk to about this issue, that we can take some responsibility ourselves, and that we should, and that we must, because, Mr. Speaker, Amanda and Rehtaeh's memory demand no less. And so, Mr. Speaker, I would move the following motion: that this Assembly supports the efforts of the federal, provincial and territorial justice ministers to better protect children by combating cyberbullying, including but not limited to changes to the Criminal Code of Canada that would make it a specific criminal offence to share images without consent.